Good morning, everyone. We are now live for our event today. Thank you for joining us for the American Academy of Pediatrics Nevada Chapter Virtual Walk with a Doc Kids Time. I'd like to welcome all of our parents, kids, and fellow practitioners to our April virtual talk. My name is Dr. Lily Hadaji. I am a pediatrician here in Las Vegas, as well as the Nevada chapter of the AAP Walk with a Doc coordinator. Our chapter has been meeting now for almost 5 years every second Sunday of the month in Las Vegas. We coordinate kid-friendly talks on a variety of pediatric health topics and then enjoy an outdoor walk together. It's a great way to get outdoors, learn important information about the health of our kids, and have the opportunity to ask a local pediatrician or pediatric specialist any questions. Our chapter also helps coordinate this event for the Reno community. We normally join at the beautiful Springs Preserves outdoor venue most of the year, while during the hotter months in the summer, we gather at Mount Charleston Visitor Gateway to escape the heat. Since we're keeping our distance to protect ourselves and our community from this pandemic, we're holding our 12th virtual Walk with a Doc this morning, live streamed online. For our talk today, we are really excited to welcome Dr. Candice Fortunato. She is a pediatric hospitalist here in Las Vegas and double board certified in pediatrics as well as internal medicine. She has a passion for educating her parents and practicing preventative medicine. She is an amazing pediatric hospitalist, and we are very happy to have her speak today on social media in the time of social distancing. As Dr. Fortunato starts her talk, I really encourage everyone to use the chat box to talk to each other and also ask any questions that she can answer at the conclusion of her talk. Dr. Fortunato, we are ready when you are.
Well, thank you so much for having me for the Walk with a Doc. I'm really honored to be here, so thank you so much. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and so even though it's not a particularly easy or pleasant talk to have, it's so important to remember to protect our children, especially in the time of COVID and 2020 and self-isolation. Use of the computer time and social media has really increased, not unexpectedly, just to continue those social connections and emotional connections between people. However, this, of course, presents a level of new challenges that we want to talk about today. So, if I use a family or a friend in this particular talk, it's because I'm using real life examples. And I think that is where I get a lot of my information and real life examples from. So I'm definitely not targeting you. It's just trying to use it as an example of how it applies to all of us. I've talked to parents, friends that have said, they're overwhelmed by the amount of information on the internet, how to protect their kids, where to even begin. And we know that talking to our teenagers, they are experiencing more anxiety. And it's in part due to social media than ever before. So I'm categorizing this talk into kind of 3 areas. The first one is how to protect our youngest ones. The second part is talking to our teenagers. And then a third one is resources for parents. So I hope that people listening to this talk can find pearls of wisdom in each one of these sections. So for our youngest members, we start introducing an iPad or a smart device, hopefully later, but we know that during 2020, we were utilizing all of our resources. And so we did start implementing, even in my household, some iPad time just to kind of occupy our young ones. We initially used them as teaching devices, but of course, they're going to be asking for more. So things like YouTube was a popular one in my house, and it became concerning because there are some very adult messages that are being inserted into some of these children's cartoons, and we have to be very aware of what our kids are watching on there. As soon as I saw that, I immediately turned it off. I flagged it, reported it, but I think it opened my eyes to it being much more common than I initially thought. There are other kids platforms for other apps that adults might use. So another popular one right now is Facebook Messenger Kids. Some of these are advertising that they have parental controls. So of course, it may make us feel like it's safer, but at the same time, we have to be aware that a lot of these larger companies are trying to target younger people to get on their platforms and use their apps at a younger age. The younger they are, the more hooked to it that they will be. In the news recently was Instagram for kids. And so it's promoting kids to be, publishing images. And so that's really concerning. I would say in general, even with parental controls, gosh, I would really be hesitant about engaging with this app, the Instagram for kids. One popular one right now is TikTok. It attracts kids because they have like these dance challenges, but we know that there has been reported other challenges that have put our older kids and our younger kids at risk of their health. So even though it's engaging to these younger ones, it's a really and in 2019, TikTok had to pay $5.7 million to the Federal Trade Commission for violating children's privacy laws. And after that fine, they implemented some parental controls finally. But I also think that their protection of children is not at the forefront of their business model. So we have to keep that in mind. So those ones are obviously social media apps, but other apps like gaming ones like Minecraft or even Among Us have kind of social media layers in them. So your child starts playing this and it seems like an innocent or innocuous game. They're building things, but once they want to customize a certain, you know, appearance for their levels and things like that, then they start to engage in chats with other people to get tips or tricks or codes, that type of thing. And then it has this social media sort of layer in it that they can start talking to one another. So just know that within certain games, you think that they might be playing by themselves, but they're beginning to engage with others and using chats on those games. There is an important movement going on that's called Wait Until 8th. And this is actually a pledge to avoid getting a child a smart device or engaging on social media until 8th grade. And that way they have a level of maturity to understand that there are rules that need to be respected, that not everything that they see or read on there is 100% truth. And so that is called Wait Until 8th. Moving on to teens, we know that our teenagers are using social media a lot. We know that they're on their phones a lot. They're not going outside as much. We also have a false sense of security because we feel like we're keeping them away from the streets. We're keeping them indoors and we're protecting them. And we give them this device to interact with their friends, but it can be, it can present another level of concerns. And it's already in their home, it's in their room, they're bringing it in at night even. We have to teach them some rules to engage on that. So the first one is just like you wouldn't tell a stranger on the street your name, your personal information. You wouldn't share pictures of yourself. Those are important lessons to teach our teenagers. You wouldn't tell your innermost thoughts to some random person out on the street. So you have to really monitor what you're putting out there online. But mistakes are going to be made. We might misstep. I think one of the most important things is know that you can turn to your parents. And even if it's a potentially embarrassing situation, maybe pictures out there that you weren't expecting to be public, you really have to be able to open up to your parents about some potentially embarrassing situations, but know that they have your best interest at heart. They want to protect you, and just be able to communicate with them is so important. Our goal as parents is to limit, your use of social media. And this is going to be a battle between, kid and parent, because for the kids, this is integral to their social interactions at school. So there's like their physical interactions at school along with their social media interactions. And that's like an important feature about relationships nowadays that maybe we don't have a full understanding of. So again, communicating with our kids and really understanding that level of both physical interaction and social media interaction is important. But we do encourage our teens to limit their time on social media. We encourage you guys to go old school, to get outside, to find a hobby or self-interest, and realize that these companies, again, are wanting you to be on their app, to double click, to click that heart, all of those things to be addicted to their platforms. So they want to engage you on their phone and keep you distracted from the real world. It can increase your anxiety, so you're developing your self-image and you're comparing it to people online that have a very carefully selected profile of pictures that they're putting out there. So realize that their profile isn't 100% representative of that person. And that's really important to keep in mind. So as a parent, you're hearing all this and you're just like, oh my gosh, where do I start? I know that even as I began looking up additional resources for this particular talk, I didn't even know what is out there available for parents. So I think that this is an important guide to what resources you do have. So just be aware, first of all, that this can happen to you. It can happen to people in your home and in your neighborhood and in your school. It's not always a pretty picture, but you have to be cognizant of what kind of other people are out there on the internet. There's even a task force from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department that is internet crimes against children. And even as recently as this month, they had a sting operation and they arrested 14 offenders that were targeting children online. So this is right here in our community, and it's very important. Sometimes your kids may think that you're the enemy, you know. So you have to realize that apps on there are masquerading as other apps. So there's sometimes text message apps that have a calculator icon. They're trying to keep it hidden from you. Try to be savvy. They can have more than one profile on social media. So it's very common nowadays to have what they call a real account. For example, Instagram, a real Instagram and a fake Instagram. And so they can try to hide what they're posting from their parents. Really watch your kids' behavior, right? So if you have a gut instinct that something's going on and they're just not acting the way that they usually would, really try to talk to them and really get to understand what might be going on, that they might not be forthcoming with that information. They might not present it to you. You might have to ask them. A good chunk of what I wanted to discuss are some of the apps that are available to parents too. So one of them is called Life 360, and I've heard of this from a couple of friends of mine. It's an app that kind of physically locates your kids. So if they're biking around your neighborhood, you can see where they are, or at least where their phone is. So obviously it has some limitations, and kids will share some workarounds on that. So just be very, very aware of that. Another app that I saw was called Bark, and this was really interesting. So it monitors the text messages that they'll send, or even their social media posts, and it's looking for some key phrases or key abbreviations that they'll use, and they can update this database of abbreviations that they use, and it will flag the parent either as a direct alert on their phone or as an email in terms of risk of being bullied, self-harm, sexual content being shared, those types of things. So apart from just physically, we talked about Life 360 being alerts for physical location. There's also this app for alerts that what they're doing online. Another app for parents is called Protect Young Eyes, and they have these really short 5-minute lessons on how you can become internet savvy. So even for those parents who are depending on their children to fix everything on their electronics, it'll give you 5-minute lessons on how you can just monitor them. And it goes from very basic to very advanced. And he releases a blog every couple of weeks to tell you about upcoming trends that they're seeing in terms of new dangers to your kids. There are new apps that could be potentially harmful. So I think that that's really important too. One of the major resources I used even in this talk is called Childhood 2.0. And this is a documentary. It's available on YouTube. And a major contributor, her name is Dr. Hess, and she's a pediatric ER doctor. She really gets into a lot of the, again, dangers on social media and on the internet itself. And it also has a written guide in there on some of these resources and questions that you can start using to talk with your kids about. And I think it was a really valuable resource. She also has an Instagram account called the PD Mom. So if you just want to add it to your own Instagram so that you can kind of get sort of these alerts on what she's seeing in your usual scrolling, then that is good too. In an email with one of the detectives from the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, There was a couple of shared resources between Childhood 2.0 and that particular detective. So the first one again was Protect Young Eyes, that app I just mentioned that has like these 5-minute lessons for parents. That's really good. Another one is called netsmarts.org, and it's spelled NETSMARTZ.org. And this is actually put on by the Internet Safety for for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It talks about internet safety and it puts it in cartoon format for your young kids, and then also has like these YouTube videos for your older kids as well. So that's netsmarts.org. And then a third website is Common Sense Media. So it kind of provides reviews on maturity, violence, sexual content, and things that we're showing to our kids. So whether it's movies, TV shows, that type of thing, that has also come up. And I think those are really important resources to have for our parents to begin to navigate. Just know that these resources are also going to probably change as well. Communication is paramount amongst everything with your kid. So hopefully there are some pearls in this topic that will provide parents some help navigating this realm, and we're all in it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fortunato. We have a couple questions for you. First one being, do you recommend setting daily time limits and parental controls on devices?
Absolutely. So we all know that the AAP has guidelines for electronic media and computer time. They limit it to 2 hours a day. They'll say probably 1 hour for ages 2 to 5. But they don't have any guidelines on social media. But they Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology does recommend, they had a study back in 2019 that recommended a limit of 30 minutes a day to social media. So that's what I would also recommend.
Okay, great. And lastly, anything else any other great advice that you can share with our audience about protecting our kids with their use of social media?
They also have parental controls, and those are great things to implement, but just know that it's not the end all be all, right? It's like kind of a safety net. Setting parental controls both on the device and for every specific app is definitely important. I think that the Protect Young Eyes will show you, definitely have a lesson on that. They definitely do. But just remember, also continue to monitor what they're watching, what they're exposing themselves to, and continuing to talk with your kids. Always communicate with them. Those are the most important things that I can recommend.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dr. Fortunato, for your very informative talk on social media and the effects on our kids. And I definitely learned some important facts. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. So it's time for us all to now go on our outdoor walk. So as we stop this live feed, I really encourage everyone to take the time to enjoy some physical activity outside. It would be great to see any photos of yourselves walking together that can be posted on the Nevada AAP Twitter feed at AAP Nevada. Make sure to walk for at least 20 minutes. Bring your water as it's getting hotter outside, and your sunscreen, and make sure you're maintaining social distancing and wear a mask. Our next virtual walk with a doc will be held May 9th at 10 a.m. and we really hope to see everyone there. Stay safe and healthy and have a great walk. Thank you.